Hello and welcome to The Downsized. This is the channel where we talk about all things health and wellness related to GLP-1 medications. My name is Lorraine Durham and I've lost 53 pounds with the help of GLP-1 medications. Today I'm very excited that we have a special guest with us. Before we get started, I want to make sure that everyone likes and subscribes to The Downsized. Also, I just want to mention that I'm not a doctor. Dr. Spencer's a doctor, but he's not your doctor. So please always consult with your healthcare professional before starting any weight loss or exercise program. I'm very honored and excited to have Dr. Spencer Nadolsky today. Dr. Nadolsky is a board-certified family physician specializing in obesity and
lipidology.
Awesome. He's also known as the doc who lifts, and he integrates exercise and nutrition into his medical practice to help patients achieve optimal health. Beyond his clinical work, Dr. Nadolsky is the founder of Vineyard, a comprehensive obesity care platform, and co-host of the Docs Who Lift podcast. The author of The Fat Loss Prescription, sharing evidence-based strategies for weight management. With a background as a Division I wrestler at UNC Chapel Hill, which is just up the road from us here in North Carolina, he brings a unique perspective to the intersection of athletics and medicine. Dr. Nadolsky, welcome to the show. Yay.
Thanks for having me on.
Yay, so exciting to have you. I've been following you on Instagram forever. So he's also on Instagram. You guys can follow him. He has lots of good videos all the time that'll brighten your day, especially if you're on a GLP-1 medication. Dr. Nadolsky, for people who are just hearing about GLP-1s for the first time, can you give us a quick breakdown of what GLP-1s are and how they help with weight loss?
Yeah, GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. It's a natural hormone that comes from our intestines. However, our own GLP-1 is broken down very quickly when we eat food. The reason it's important is back in the 50s or 60s, they found this, they call it an incretin effect, by injecting glucose into people's veins and measuring insulin versus people drinking glucose. And, I would think if you injected glucose straight into the veins, the glucose gets to the pancreas releases insulin to get that glucose into your cells. I would think injecting would sharply increase the insulin more. They found that people drinking it, there was more pronounced effect on insulin. So they call this incretin effect, intestinal secretion of insulin. It wasn't until later in the 80s when they found out the specific types of incretins, one of them being glucagon-like peptide 1, GLP-1, and there was another one called GIP. But essentially what they found is that by making what they call receptor agonists, so they took our own GLP-1 and modified it in a way that doesn't get broken down quickly. And over the years, they've gotten to the point where they are very powerful. So the first one that came out was actually based off of the Gila monster venom, and they called it exenatide. And that was a twice-a-day injection. 2006, it was approved. That was only for type 2 diabetes. A little bit of weight loss, not much. Then a year or two later, something called liraglutide, which was Victoza, if people remember that one. Once a day injection, a little bit more weight loss. They cranked up that liraglutide to 3 milligrams from the 1.8 milligram dose. And for diabetes, type 2 diabetes, for obesity, they got to 3 milligrams. And they found it was decent amount of weight loss, about 7 or 8% total body weight loss. Compare that to diet and exercise, on average around 5 to 6% total body weight loss. On average, remember, some people do a lot better, but most people, they lose a little bit of weight and then they regain it type of thing. So 7 or 8% is decent, but a little bit better than diet and exercise by itself. It wasn't until semaglutide. So these very smart researchers, scientists, found ways to prolong the half-life of these GLP-1 receptor agonists, and semaglutide, which I call it the stronger, bigger, stronger, younger brother of liraglutide. And that was when they came out with Ozempic, so 2016. It wasn't until they cranked that dose up, though, with the STEP trials. If people remember, in 2021, it was first published, that STEP 1 trial of semaglutide, the 2.4 milligram dose. It was Wegovy is the brand name. And that's where we saw around 15% total body weight loss. And that's where everybody's like, whoa, what's going on here? Because we went, you go from that 5 or 6%, lifestyle, it's decent, 5 or 6%. It's nothing again, but that's like intensive. Like you need coaching and all sorts of stuff to even get that average. It's not like reading a book, people lose that much. So 15% though, that's like nothing to sneeze at type of thing. So when you think about bariatric surgeries, like 30%, lifestyles around 5-6%. Now we have something kind of like in the middle where it's like, oh, we got something that's like not, you don't have to get surgery necessarily, but we got something that's effective. And so that's this new class. And it's, I say new, but people are like, well, it's been out since 2006. So almost 2 decades, but like these newer versions of them are just engineered in a way where they last longer in our body. And the way they work for weight loss is they hit receptors in the brain that dampen down appetite. And it's not just, and you're on one, so you can describe it, of course. I know you have on the show, but I can just tell you what the patients tell me is that, like, especially ones that have used phentermine and other weight loss drugs in the past, and then bariatric surgery, they describe the satiety, the hunger, and the cravings are improved. And that's part of something that they don't necessarily get from these other things. But the food noise or just thoughts of food are just so dampened down that they never felt it before. And what they describe is basically feeling what it must feel like to not have to struggle with your weight. So again, you're living it, so I don't want to like mansplain it to you, but I'm giving you what my patients tell me. So but that's the gist. That's a brief overview of the GLP-1 receptor agonists.
I saw one of your Instagram reels where you're talking about food noise, and you're saying, what food noise looks like to a normal person: breakfast, lunch, dinner. And then what food noise looks like to a person with the disease of obesity. And it's like breakfast, lunch, dinner,
all day.
All day, all the time. So I definitely had food noise. I'm happy to say that has been dampened down with tirzepatide. So
good.
I'm very happy about that. A lot of people are concerned about side effects. What do you typically see side effects, if any, of the patients that you treat?
Most common side effect by far is nausea. You see it in the studies. You see it in every, not every patient. Some patients like, I didn't have any nausea. But most commonly, people feel a mild amount of nausea. Somewhat rarely we see moderate to severe where they need anti-nausea medicines and they have to go down in the dose or adjust the dose. But that's by far the most common. And towards the end of while they're on it, it usually resolves. Rarely does it just continue forever, the nausea. A little bit here and there, but for the most part, it resolves. Next most common that I see is probably constipation. And that one's constant. So the way we treat that is really try to prevent it from happening, increase the fibrous foods, increase the physical activity, increase the water. And then if that doesn't work, do we need to add fiber supplements? Do we add Miralax? Do we add magnesium citrate? A lot of patients, I tell them to get something called Orlistat or Ally, which is over the counter. It's a weight loss medicine, cause leaky stools in people that don't take the medicine. So it's like, oh God, I don't want leaky stools, but kind of counteracts, and then all of a sudden things normalize.
So, I haven't heard that. I had a friend who went on that in the probably 90s or 2000s, maybe. And she had some explosive issues with that. So I guess between the explosion and the stoppage, it kind of normalizes.
It evens out. Now, there probably needs to be a study. Maybe I should contact the manufacturers and see, like, hey, could we do a placebo-blinded study? But it's something we do clinically. So constipation, reflux is another common one. When the medicine's physiological action in the GI system is to slow things down, especially in the stomach. So if you're slowing down what they call the gastric emptying, the emptying from the stomach into the duodenum and your intestines, basically, there's more chance of it to start refluxing up your esophagus. So we see that if people have a history of reflux where I'm just like, look, don't be laying down after meals, like all the standard stuff
Yeah.
of what you do. So maybe smaller meals, not big meals, that type of thing. So reflux is another one. I see diarrhea from time to time. In fact, last week, for whatever reason, multiple patients messaged in like, I was feeling fine, and then I just started having constant diarrhea, and it's like, okay, are they having a GI bug or is it the medicine? And in general, it resolves. And for those people, a little Pepto-Bismol, do we need to use Imodium, more fiber to bulk things up, and then it resolves. But
Yeah.
those are the common things I see. The more serious things you worry about is like, if you lose weight too quickly, you can develop gallstones. So we try not to make people lose weight too fast on them. And too fast is somewhere around 1% or more than 1% of your body weight per week. So let's just say you're 300 pounds on average, doing more than 3 pounds per week. So 300 pounds, if you're doing 4 or 5 pounds per week consistently, you probably want to slow it down a little bit. So
I've never heard it described as an average, a percent of your body weight before.
Yeah.
I've always heard just like 1 to 2 pounds a week. I guess most people weigh 100, 200, some weigh 300 or more pounds. So I guess if you weigh 300 or more, it'd be 3 pounds a week average. So that's a
so it
good way
makes
to
it more
think about that.
relative to the person, because like someone who's 400 or 500 pounds or something, if you're like, lose 1 to 2 pounds a week, that's not going to work.
Yeah. And they report losing faster than that anyway. So I guess it's just 1% of your total body weight. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
One thing I really want to know about is, you lift weights, you're all about, muscle and keeping the muscle. So is it possible to keep the muscle you have while you're losing weight on a GLP-1?
Yeah. So this was a big deal. A doctor named Peter Attia went on the Megyn Kelly show and was like, one of my patients lost 2/3 of their weight from muscle. And it was like, what? Where'd you get that? That's an anecdote, number one. And number two, I've never seen it. In the semaglutide step trials, it looked like, now I hope you have Dr. Tinsley on here that goes over the differences between, in a DEXA scan, they see your bone mineral density, your bone mass, and then all the other tissue beyond that. It doesn't look at muscle directly, so you have to make inferences on how much muscle. But so you can do something called fat-free mass, and then you can even look at soft tissue mass, soft lean mass, so you can remove the bone and you can look at the other stuff that's not bone and obviously not fat. Well, in those step trials, they showed like a 40% fat-free mass loss, which is a little bit more than what we'd expect, but that doesn't mean it's muscle. In the tirzepatide trials, though, it looks more like 25%, which is around what we'd expect. And again, that's not necessarily muscle. It's can be fluid and things like that. Now, what about if you actually like lift weights and eat a lot of protein?
Yeah.
Well, we just submitted our case series and we're doing a current study right now. We're going to have 100 subjects. So our case series is small, a few patients. Not everybody did a DEXA scan before. I didn't want to add in people that did DEXA scans like months after they started, but we have patients that did all the lifting, did all the protein, and like some of them gained muscle. They didn't lose, and they lost a lot of fat. So
I mean, how is that possible to gain muscle in a calorie deficit?
Yeah, there are two different types of processes going on. There's fat loss and muscle gain, and so even in a calorie deficit, if you're sending signals to your body and like your muscle, for instance, to stick around, and the signal is lifting weights. People are like, protein's the most important. It's like, not really. You need to send the signal to your muscles that you need to stick around here because we're using you. And it gets much more complex molecularly, but like that's the gist. You're sending.
I break it down for me.
Yeah, you're sending the signal.
Yeah,
you're using the muscle. You're sending that signal, and basically the muscles are you're maintaining strength and the muscle cells, and you can increase protein synthesis through that. And then obviously you want to give it the building blocks of the protein, but the resistance training is the most important part. Now, it's not guaranteed that you're going to gain muscle. Actually, people were asking like, oh, because when you first start lifting weights, you get kind of what they call the newbie gains.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these, I think one of the people they wasn't newbie gains. They've been lifting for a while and they still somehow gained muscle as they lost fat. So it does happen regardless. Like even like for me, for example, if I'm trying to start losing some fat, it's very hard for me to get more. I can barely gain muscle as it is at this point in my life, unless I like dedicate a lot of time to it. But
Well, you have a lot of muscle, I guess, comparatively,
yeah,
right? I mean,
I have a decent amount, but like,
Yeah.
it's hard. So like
it's hard.
for people, it was kind of impressive to see some of these people like, wow, looks like you're gaining some muscle. So
Yeah.
it's possible. I don't want to say it's guaranteed.
Mhm.
I think it's inevitable to lose a little bit of muscle while you're losing, but like if you send that signal and eat enough protein, it looks like, at least clinically, we're doing some more studies here that it's not something I worry about.
And when we talk about lifting weights, so our average viewer is my age, right? About 56 years old, female. So I go to the gym and I do some classes that use free weights. Um, how how much do I need to do? How many times a week to give my muscles that signal to keep building?
Yeah, I'd say ideally like a minimum of 2 days a week, and you'd want to do like full body training. Now, if all you can do is 1 day a week, that's better than zero.
Better than
But
nothing. Mhm.
if I'm gonna guess, you would ideally at least hit around 2 days a week, and you want to hit those muscle groups twice a week. So, for example, if you're doing some sort of pressing exercise, like a bench press, push-ups, or something along that line, you do something like that for your chest twice a week. If you're trying to get your legs, you do different leg exercises twice a week. And it's not just kind of like going through the motions. You do want to get too close to what's called, like, we call it failure. And that's, if you do too much and make people miserable, that's where they feel like exercise kind of punishment. That's like, this isn't fun. So you don't have to go to like where the bar is about to fall on your neck and choke you out type of thing. You get at least close, like we call it, like 1 or 2 reps close to that feeling, to where that really is what sends that signal to like, hey, we need this muscle to stick around, so to speak. So if you're getting around there, so like if you got to put in some effort. So like a lot of these, I will say, like even if they were to do less intense, less weight, and just kind of going through some of the motions, is probably better than doing nothing. But like to be optimal, you do want to, those last few reps are like, okay, those are, it's starting to get pretty tough there. That's the gist. And then beyond that, you can really get into it. But like for the average listener, if you're following those kind of guidelines, you'll be good.
Okay. All right. Great. That gives me some
Yeah.
gives me some good info there, because we do in my class, we do like push-ups, we do planks, and it's my joke is I hold it as long as I can, and then I fall to the ground and say fail.
Yeah.
I held it to the point of failure. So
there you go. You're good.
So yeah. All right. Cool. Talking about protein, do you have a guideline that you have people like, how many grams of protein do I need a day?
Yeah, I always say around 1.2 grams per kilogram.
Yeah.
So kilogram, you got it's
2.2.
2.2. So if you're 220 pounds, that means you're 100 kilograms. So if that means you'd have 120 grams of protein. Honestly, some of it's, you start getting into gravy area. Like it's like, all right, if you're getting enough. So like, but then there becomes a point. Let's say someone who's 500 pounds, you start getting to a protein level that's like, this is miserable to eat that much.
You can't achieve that.
They haven't done enough studies to go like, okay, this person really needs this much more and whatever.
Yeah.
It's just kind of based on some averages there. So if you can get anywhere from 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram, bodybuilders get straight up over like usually 2.2, or even 3 grams per kilogram. They go up like 1 gram per pound, or even 1.5 grams per pound.
Yeah.
That's excessive. Like for like you guys, that nobody needs to do that unless you're like trying to eke out every little tiny gram of muscle for a bodybuilding show. Like who's doing that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But for
I'm
the
just trying to be strong for
yeah,
old age, I guess.
you're trying to live. You're trying to live
Yeah.
and have a quality of life. Yeah. So
Right. So I weigh about 140. I try for between 80 and 100. So I think
yeah,
I'm in
yeah,
that
you're good.
target.
Yeah, that's great.
What are some of your best protein sources that you recommend to people?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you can get them from whole sources, it's good. I'll be honest, I actually get a lot of protein from shakes myself because,
Okay.
like, in between patients, whatever, I'm just like, I need to quick.
Yeah.
I need something quick, and like, I can't sit down and eat a steak. I eat for dinner though. I eat a large piece of meat in general. But
Yeah.
like breakfast, I do an egg white protein shake. It's not egg whites, it's egg white powder, so it's not
Okay.
gross. But and then lunch, it can be either meat or it's another types of protein shakes. And but then dinner and then nighttime before bed, I tend to eat yogurt. People like
Yeah.
cottage cheese or something like that. But
Mhm.
that's what I do. Now people are like, oh, what about if you're a vegetarian? Well, forget the meat. Go for more like you got to figure
Yeah.
out whatever the person tolerates best. People don't like protein shakes so much.
Yeah.
I kind of like them. I'm kind of weird though.
I use them as like a supplement. Like I'll put
Yeah,
it in my coffee in
there
the
you go.
morning to kind of get a little extra.
Yeah,
If, in the middle of the day, if I feel like I haven't
yeah,
reached it,
boost it up.
I use it as a supplement. But I do agree eating, whole foods when you can is best. What
Yeah,
about red meat? Are you pro or against?
yeah. I'm not. I'll be honest. I eat a lot of it because it just tastes so good. However, so I'm a lipidologist, so I monitor people's cholesterol levels
Mhm.
and the different fractions, what
Yeah.
lipoprotein, little proteins that carry the cholesterol. So, I monitor people's LDL cholesterol and LDL particles, ApoB, all the different crazy advanced markers. But red meat doesn't necessarily increase those. Like if you eat chicken versus lean, especially like a lean red meat, it's not
Mhm.
much of a difference. It's
Mhm.
really the biggest difference is if you were to swap your meat for lentils or
Mhm.
other um, vegan types of sources
Uh-huh.
or plant-based sources, I should say.
Uh-huh.
That's where you start seeing the biggest change. But like a lot of my patients, they're it's not like their lipids are that elevated anyway. So go ahead and you need to eat your protein. So
Yeah.
you're starting to balance those the lipid changes versus the body composition changes and what that would
Hmm.
do for that person's overall health. And worst comes to worst, you can always just take a little medicine to like I actually take a little small statin, a little cholesterol medicine, plus another one called ezetimibe,
Hmm.
because I'm like, you know what? I did the vegan thing once just for an experiment, and my cholesterol was like amazing, and I was like, I'm not going to do this. It's not going to happen. So
Yeah.
I just take a little bit of medicine, and I'm like, forget it. And that, but yeah, lean red meat is a very good source of protein, but do know that it can come with potential risk for lipid stuff. There are some other factors of red meat that may increase risks for things like colon cancer and
Mhm.
other inflammatory things. And they don't know exactly why. Just when we look at some of these studies, it's like, oh, it seems like people that eat more of this have some of these things, but um,
One caused the other, or did they just happen at the same
hard,
time?
it's hard to know. It
Yeah.
seems to be a good correlation between the two. And if I had to guess, there might be a little signal there, but it's just, again, you weigh the quality of life stuff with these
Yeah.
potential risk factors.
Gotcha. So, I mean, a varied diet. I mean, you're not saying, go all red meat or go no red meat, but just kind of, it can be a part of your lifestyle,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess.
and just understand there could be some of these other risk factors that may be more so if you ate like say chicken or something like that.
Yeah.
But like it's you just have
Yeah.
I the taste, and I'll take my chances basically is what I because the risk to me the risk is relatively small, but it could be there.
Yeah. Okay. So, on Instagram, I see you battling misinformation all the
Yeah.
time. What's the biggest myth, or what's the biggest stream of misinformation you've had to bust up?
So in regards to the GLP-1 medicines, there's other things. So like just diet in general. Let's say
Mhm.
one of them would be that LDL cholesterol doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter for heart. It absolutely does. We have so many studies showing the relationship of LDL cholesterol and heart disease.
Mm.
But those are like non-GLP-1 things. There's like, what about intermittent fasting is better than just eating fewer calories? When it doesn't pan out, when you look at it, it comes down to the calorie intake.
Calories. I hear people talking about intermittent fasting
Wow.
all the time, and I'm like, why do you want to go 20 hours without food? Like,
I wouldn't, like, if they want to do it, go ahead, have fun, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Right.
It has in terms of weight loss, are there other potential health benefits from it beyond the weight loss? I don't know, but like, it comes down to a quality of life. I like eating, so whatever.
Me too.
So there's some of those myths. I mean, some of the older myths, like eating more often makes your metabolism higher. Those are old myths. Oh, one of the big ones is that carbohydrates are inherently fattening, not related to their calorie content. That's a myth. That's a big one. I like to make fun of that one because there's a lot of people in the ketogenic diet cult that like, no.
So carbs can be a part of your lifestyle on a GLP-1. Do we need to monitor how many carbs we're eating, or just have a balance?
Yeah, balance, you're good. Like, if you're monitoring your rate of weight loss and you're getting enough protein in and you're eating carbs, like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. You're good to go there.
I like carbs.
In terms of GLP-1 myths, so the medicines cause nausea. The nausea is the reason you lose weight. Not true. Been studied extensively. People that don't get nausea lose a lot of weight. People end up not having nausea, as we mentioned before. They lose a lot of weight and keep it off. So, like, not a thing. They've done what they call sensitivity analyses and try to determine how much nausea people have and how much weight is related to that. They find like maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3% of the total body weight on average is related to the nausea. It's very small, very insignificant amounts related to nausea. So the medicines cause satiety and the food noise and all that stuff helps people eat fewer calories. It's not the nausea.
Yeah. Okay.
The other big myth is thyroid cancer. There's a big black box warning on the drugs, and so it's because in preclinical trials they looked at it in rats and rodents, and they found people, they're having they call like hyperplasia of specific types of cells in the thyroid called C cells. And one of the cancers, there are multiple thyroid cancers, but one of the rare types of thyroid cancers is called medullary thyroid cancer. So everybody's heard that on the commercials, probably saw it in the package insert and all these things. Medullary thyroid cancer arises from these C cells. Well, rodents have GLP-1 receptors on their C cells of their thyroid.
Oh, humans don't.
Humans don't. If they do, they're sparse. Like I've looked back and forth, and like some studies say, no, there's not. They either don't have them or they're not readily available. So we don't see the signal in humans. Doesn't mean that like over time, but we've seen these big, large observational studies, and some have suggested maybe an increased risk. Others have suggested no. I will say in those studies that suggest that there is an increased risk, what you have to look out for is that because of the black box warning and because people see it, they're more likely to go get more ultrasounds on their thyroid to check. And when you check more, you find more. And it had nothing to do with the medicine. So, and they've done those types of analysis to go, it looks like those people are just checking more often over long periods of time. It doesn't seem to be any statistically significant difference. So that's probably a myth. Pancreatitis, pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer, no statistical difference between placebo and the drug. Pancreatitis, same thing, although I have seen pancreatitis in patients. Now, one of the potential causes of pancreatitis is gallstone pancreatitis. And so if you're losing weight quickly, developing gallstones gets through the ducts and get into the pancreatic duct, you can cause. So that's a potential. I've seen it before, so I can't say it's like that's not possible.
Yeah. Just something to look out for.
Yeah, when you look at huge studies and you put them all together, it doesn't look like any difference from the placebo. So like, but that's kind of a myth. The
gastroparesis, is that
yeah, that's a good one. it's not seen in the trials. The medicines do slow down the GI emptying, the gastric emptying. It's a physiologic trait of the medicine. I have never, ever, ever seen permanent slowing of the gastric emptying from these drugs, especially after they stop.
Mm-hmm.
But there are case reports of it. It's not seen in any of the data. So if it happens, I can't say if it even does happen because I don't know what these cases are that you hear about.
Yeah.
They weren't my patient, and I've overseen tens of thousands of patients in various areas, and I've never seen it. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen because now there are millions of people taking these drugs. But if it does happen, extremely rare. Extremely rare.
I saw you answering a question, and I'm not sure how you stand on artificial sweeteners, Diet Coke.
I love them. I love them. Now, here's the deal, because people are like, man, what's wrong with drinking water? I'm like, go ahead and drink water. I'm just saying, if you're drinking a regular soda and you don't want to go straight to water and you're willing to switch to a diet soda, that's way better than drinking the regular soda, period.
Yes.
If you go from not drinking any soda at all and you're drinking water to drinking diet soda, that's not going to help you lose weight. So like, that's not beneficial but it's not necessarily harmful either. What people worry about is the mismatch of the sweetness without any calories. So their thought is that maybe people go seeking for the actual calories that they missed out on that sweetness. And it turns out that doesn't actually happen. So I'm not, I like a good Fresca once in a while. So like, that's my thing. I had a diet Sprite the other day. I'm like, this is not as good as Fresca. The only soda I drink right now is like maybe Diet Sunkissed, the orange one once in a while, but it's really just Fresca. I used to drink more Diet Mountain Dew when I was in med school, but I try to
the caffeine kick.
Yeah, and now I just drink black coffee in the morning, and I'm not drinking any other caffeinated sodas later. So,
gotcha. You talked about people potentially going off the medicine, or not. Is this? I don't think I will be able to come off this medicine. Have you seen people come off of it? Do they need to stay on it for a long time? What's your stance on that?
yeah, about so they've done these studies where they put everybody on the drug. So tirzepatide, for example, Zepbound, the brand name, but they put everybody on it, and then like partially through the trial, they randomize some people to stay on the active drug, and they randomize other people to the placebo. And on average, you see those people randomized to the placebo. They start gaining the weight. They were on it, and then they randomized the placebo, so you see them start gaining the weight, and the other people keep losing weight. That's on average, but then you see a subset of people, 10, 15 or so percent of people, they seem to keep the weight off. So a small percentage of people can keep the weight off. However, that's not a lot. So most people likely will require the drug long term, but it doesn't have to be the highest dose. There are some people that seem to be getting away with very low doses and even spreading it out. They just need something to keep some of that food noise and hunger at bay.
Yeah.
But they're able to go from, say, the 15 milligrams all the way down to 2.5 and spread out. Some people need to stay on that high 15 dose. It's really, I can't seem to, I'm not going to be able to figure out, Big Pharma is going to figure out. They're going to find the receptors. Then they're going to start refining these drugs. They're going to try to make their money.
Yeah. Well, of course. But I feel like, all my life I've kind of battled my weight, right? I could never get to a goal weight. So now with the help of tirzepatide, I've achieved it, right? So I was up as high as 12.5 milligrams of tirzepatide. And then I started coming down because that's what I thought you were supposed to do maybe 6 months ago when I started maintenance. So I dropped down and I was at 7.5 for a really long time, about 4 months. And then recently I dropped down to 5 just to see
what happened.
Nothing. Like it's been fine.
That's
so just trying to figure, and I think everybody is so different with that, really. I think you just really have to, I haven't seen with the people I've talked to, some people have lost 50 pounds on 2.5.
Yeah.
Some people have lost nothing until they get up to 10 or
I
12.5.
know, isn't that amazing?
And there's no, I mean, not a doctor, but, it just seems to be a very personalized thing, both going up and maintaining. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think we're going to see probably differences in sensitivity to the medicine, and there's also, it's possible some people aren't getting it enough into their system despite
Hmm.
injecting the whole thing. It's not being absorbed. I don't
Huh.
think they know exactly. But I have a
Like maybe
feeling,
they're not injecting into fat, or
I don't
their body
know,
just doesn't absorb it.
when they start looking closer, it looks like the people that get the highest levels into their system do the best.
Hmm.
There'd be no way of knowing unless we have a tirzepatide blood test.
I can't be stuck with another needle.
Yeah, that would be cool. If, you have the continuous glucose monitors. We have a continuous tirzepatide monitor or something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that would be kind of interesting to go like, oh no, this person that didn't respond, it's because their levels aren't getting high enough, and then you got to figure out,
Hmm.
well, what do we got
How
to
to
do?
keep their
Crank their
levels
dose
up.
up
Yeah.
something? I
Well,
don't know.
and I guess to that end, people ask, and I've done this at the beginning, do you ever skip a dose to like go on vacation or
Mhm.
to eat more at Thanksgiving? Or what's your feeling about skipping a dose?
Yeah, I got a lot of patients that do similar, going on spring break. Hey, I want to go on a cruise. I kind of want to enjoy it. Can I skip it? I'm like, sure. What the hell? Like the one thing is you do have to be careful. If you wait too long
Hmm.
and then restart at this high dose, you don't want to
Get sick.
get them really sick when they come back.
Yeah.
A week off. So like if they're on, let's say they're on the 5.
Hmm.
They're on 5, like, or if they're having surgery, let's say, for
Yeah.
example, they're having surgery,
Colonoscopy.
they got to stop.
Yeah.
Um, and they're on the 5. And they got to wait a week, and then they got to wait another week. So they're off of it for like 2 weeks. I'm like, restart at the 5. As long as they didn't have troubles. If they had a lot of nausea getting up to the 5, I'll start.
Yeah.
No
2.5.
nausea. Yeah. If they're on the 15 and they take a week off, they might be okay. Although I'd feel more comfortable going to the 10 with them.
Not 12.5 all the way back down to 10?
All the way to 10. Yeah, if they're on 15 and they have to take like 2 to 3 weeks off, I'm bringing them to the 5.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
yeah,
Wow.
it
And
sucks, but
what why why drop so low? What's the
as it gets out of
why?
the system and they get used to it being out of system, and then you restart them with that high dose,
It's
I've seen some
uh-huh.
really bad stuff happen.
Huh.
Yeah, it's hospitalizations and stuff.
Oh,
Not
all
my
right.
patients,
Yeah.
other doctors. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't do it, because your body starts getting used to not having it in the and like you get used to your body doesn't have the side effects anymore, and then it gets used to not having it, and then all of a sudden you reintroduce a huge amount to it to,
Mhm.
to you, and side effects, it can come back really bad.
So I would even say if you're on 15, it'd be better if looking at vacations and things, not surgery, but vacations and things, it'd be better not to skip a dose.
Maybe, or time it out to where it's more like, instead of 7 days, it's like 10 days. You can time it out
Yeah.
a little bit.
Stretch it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's different for each person. And if they're adamant, like, I didn't have any side effects, I'll be fine. I'm like, okay, don't sue me. So, but I
You're a
work with
grown up.
patients.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work with patients. I'm like, look, you can kind of tell, like, if you look back at their history and they're like, man, it was brutal getting up to the 15, and now they're just now tolerating that 15, and they want to stop it for a few weeks. It's like, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, you're just gonna go back to those same side
Yeah,
effects
and it's
or
terrible. It's
worse.
miserable. I'm like, I don't want
Yeah.
you to be miserable.
Yeah. um, do you talking about dosage, how do you move people up every month? Do you wait till their weight loss levels out and move them up? Like, what's your thought on going up through the dosage?
Yeah, my gist is 0.5% to 1% total body weight loss, and if they're meeting that, good. Now, if they're meeting that, we don't have to move up, but you can. Some people are like, you know what? I'm getting really hungry, and I'm still losing weight, but I'm getting really hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's kind of like, we should probably move up because what's going to happen? They're going to get so hungry, then they're going to start plateauing that next month. But if they're like, I'm good, no side effects, I'm not getting hungry, I feel comfortable here, just keep them at the lower dose. There's no reason to move up unless insurance is forcing you to, which I can't figure out. Some insurances force you to, some insurances don't care. I'm just like, no, if you look at the label too, and I knew it right when the Zepbound label came out. I blame Lilly, but everybody's like, well, it's the way it was studied. I'm like, I don't care. It's just we know the drug works on appetite, but the way it was written was like the 7.5, well, the 2.5, 7.5, and 12.5 were titration doses. Like there's bridge doses between the two. And I'm like, it's all the same drug. People respond to the drugs differently. You guys this is so stupid. So
I don't know. I don't understand how insurance companies can claim to know more than the patient's doctor. Like, how do they? Why? It's maddening, right?
It is. It's extremely maddening on multiple levels, and they're just creating more and more hoops to try not to pay for the drugs now. For example, a patient lost 30% of their weight on Wegovy, and they want to switch to Zepbound now. Oh, their BMI is 23 now. Yeah, but their BMI was 35 when we started. So let's put the 35. No, they start getting specific about like, no, we want to know what their BMI is right now.
No.
And you're like, okay, it's 23 now, but, and they're like, nope, not. I'm like, no, it was 35. And the only reason it's down this is because of the drug. And then you got to fight with them, and then you got to get on the phone and like, fine, we'll approve it. And I'm like, yeah, you approve it, you idiots. They're so bad.
Well, the insurance I have covers no weight loss medications. So, I'm just out of luck all the way around. But if you have insurance that covers the weight loss medications, that's like jackpot, right?
Yeah.
And thinking about new medicines that are currently in tests and trials right now, how far away are we from the next wave of GLP-1s?
So retatrutide is the one that everybody's waiting for, or forglipron, which is a small molecule GLP-1 agonist. It may be coming out in a year or two, but retatrutide is the one that for people that have plateaued on Zepbound or tirzepatide and they want to lose more weight, that's the one everybody's waiting for because it's like melting fat off of people. I believe the study is going to be read out next year, 2026. And then as long as everything's good, then they go for approval after the big study's been published. And then it's usually a few months after that. And that's what it was for like Wegovy and Zepbound. So as long as everything's good there. So we're looking at late 2026, early 2027, unfortunately. But it's going to be worth the wait because this drug is ridiculous.
Do you think there'll be tighter restrictions? You'll need to have a higher BMI?
I don't know. We're trying to get away from the BMI. They just removed it from the labels. But that's kind of like, okay, well, so insurance has to, they don't want to pay for it. So they start setting their own rules, honestly.
Yeah.
I have a feeling with this drug, I mean, it's so powerful. Like imagine, so it's approved for BMI 27 plus, like a comorbidity. So hypertension. So let's say they have hypertension, high blood pressure, and it's 27 BMI. You put them on retatrutide, they're going to be at like a 2 BMI, but they're going to just disintegrate. But
so I guess if Wegovy is a 15% weight loss and Zepbound is a little bit higher,
20, 21, 22 kind of.
So retatrutide 30?
That's the thought, is that because right now we're seeing 26 or so. There was something where it was, but it wasn't long. You can see that they're still losing weight when they stop the phase 2 trials.
Yeah.
So people are expecting around a 30%. I mean, like, holy cow. But I have patients that were in the clinical trials, and I'm just like, they just go from, some of these people lost half their body weight, and it was, and
wow,
just incredible.
I mean, would it be a quicker rate of loss? So if it's 1 to 2 pounds a week for a 100, 200 pound person, would it be 4 to 5
Well,
pounds a week?
it potentially. I have to look at the curves, but like
Yeah.
it looks the way the patients describe is that they had to look some of the trials. Some of their people. I don't know if people got like kicked out of the trial from losing too much weight, or they actually had to stop the medicine for a little bit. And they describe now they're on, some of them are on tirzepatide now, and they're like, this is pretty good, but like the retatrutide that like squashed appetite, just squashed everything, and just um, it's yeah. So I will still want to follow the same kind of 1% per week on average, just due to making sure we're preserving muscle, making sure
Yeah.
we're skipping the gallstone thing.
Yeah. Hair loss.
Yeah, and that's you see that a lot.
Yeah.
We'll see. This is going to be the phase 3 trial of this retatrutide. It will be really interesting.
For orforglipron, that's the other. Will that be a pill that comes out? Do you think that'll be a good? I'm thinking for myself personally. Do you think that'll be a good maintenance medication? And will I wonder if I'll be able to qualify for it, or I
The
don't know.
hope, well, yeah, from an insurance standpoint,
Who knows?
whoever your provider is will have to make sure that they show like, look, this person was on tirzepatide. Yeah, their BMI, like, and then they're going to have to fight with them. But yes, the idea with this medicine is that it's called a small molecule. It's not a long peptide. A peptide is a chain of amino acids, and the reason you have to inject it is because when you
swallow it, stomach acid
just degrades it, breaks it, and you don't absorb it.
Yeah.
Ribelsis is the current semaglutide pill, but they have a special delivery system where it changes the pH in the area of the stomach, and it's still like, and they're cranking up the dose of that one to where 50 milligrams of semaglutide in a pill is about equal to 2.4 of an injection.
Wow.
And it's still not very well tolerated. You have to, like, 30 minutes before you eat, you have to have it with a tiny little sip of water, because you can't drink a lot of water because that will also screw it up too. Anyway, orforglipron, though, is a little molecule as opposed to a long peptide. Doesn't matter. You can eat with it, drink with it, whatever. And probably, I have a feeling, going to be better tolerated. But also, it's cheaper, should be cheaper to manufacture.
Well, I mean, that doesn't necessarily translate to a cheap drug price, I guess.
Let's hope they do the right thing. I don't know if they have done that in the past, but let's
I guess you don't have the injector. It's a pill. It's more portable. It doesn't have to be refrigerated, like all those things.
I hope so.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's a whole nother discussion, but I really hope, and I don't know if there might be some Lilly people listening to this. Come on, Lilly, let's do people a favor around here.
Yeah, let's drop the prices, Lilly.
Yeah, come on.
They might listen to you.
Yeah.
I guess looking ahead, at the way obesity is viewed now versus the changing, landscape and treatments. How do you feel that these GLP-1 medications are going to affect the public health long term?
Yeah, here's my thought, is that right now we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg in terms of people at high risk. I think there needs to be studies on relatively healthy people without obesity for prevention purposes, because here's what I think. Imagine a person who is family history of obesity and obesity sequela, comorbidities, heart attacks, strokes, blood pressure, kidney disease, all those different things. And that person in their 20s starts to gain weight, and you can start seeing signs of those issues. Boom.
Yeah.
They may not meet the criteria on paper yet, but you can see they're heading towards it. Boom. Prevent it in that person. You can imagine someone would just, I don't have obesity, but these drugs help people reduce heart attacks regardless of the weight. There may be a small hint of it from the weight loss, but it's the GLP-1 receptor agonism that's reducing heart attacks and the downstream effects from that. So you can imagine, hey, just a low dose of this stuff in this person to prevent a heart attack. Yeah, if this person has alcohol abuse and it's ruining their life, you got to be careful because some of those people can be malnourished. But you give them a little dose, all of a sudden it's like, oh God, I don't feel the need to drink alcohol.
Right.
Oh gosh, my patients with Crohn's disease
Hmm.
and just inflammatory bowel disease in general. Had a patient with psoriatic arthritis. Again, these are anecdotes,
Really?
but they go like, oh, weird, I'm taking my XYZ biologic,
Hmm.
Mira or whatever, Skyrizi, all these different drugs that are biological drugs that work in the immune pathway. And they're like, nothing helped like tirzepatide. I'm like, what does this drug not do? It needs to be
Well,
studied though. These are anecdotes,
I mean, we've heard maybe it's good for Alzheimer's
Yeah.
too.
Everybody's saying we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some smoking gun out there, but I don't know. If you tolerate it well and do well, it seems like people just have an overall better. I mean, maybe 20 years from now, we'll be like, oh gosh, that probably wasn't a good idea. I don't think so, though. I think they're here to stay. That's my thought.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear
Yeah.
it. I'm glad to hear it. Well, thanks, Dr. Spencer. I mean, this has been amazing. I appreciate you coming on and talking with us. Tell us a little bit about your platform, Vineyard. Give it a little plug.
Yeah. So I created Sequence, and Weight Watchers bought it, and I since left there to create something. A lot of these places out there, I don't want to name names, but they're GLP-1 mills. They're injection mills. They're not pill mills. They're injection mills. So you come in, you have a pulse, you get the GLP-1. And I was like, you know what? And what I know people want, they want the drug fast. They want it convenient. They don't want to go to their PCP and get shamed from them. So I was like, okay, I know I can do fast and convenient, but I can deliver the deeper care that I think is necessary. A lot of patients say that they feel like they work with XYZ clinic and it's transactional, meaning they're just paying for access to the medicine, basically.
Yeah.
I wanted to go like, look, pay access to the medicine. I'll do it for you, but I'm going to go deep. I'm going to do your lipids. I'm going to do your blood pressure. Oh, by the way, hair loss and whatever, you're paying XYZ clinic, another different clinic just for your hair loss, $50 a month. I'll send in your minoxidil, your low dose minoxidil, monitor your blood pressure, make sure everything's good. And it'll be $2 instead of $50 because Mark Cuban's pharmacy. So we can do that. Oh, you're having a little bit of what we call anhedonia from the medicine. Well, I can do your mental health a little bit. I'm not going to do psychiatric like Adderall and stuff like that, but a little bit of bupropion, maybe an SSRI because you have some mild depression, and we think that it'll help. Anything weight or weight adjacent or related to the medicines we do. So it's kind of a cardiometabolic, but it's weight focused. It's GLP-1 focused, but like we go much beyond that. I have a resistance training program with strength coaches, and you get one. The other big difference is other programs I noticed, they all do it. You get your patients here, you get a care coordinator, team member, and then some provider up in the sky that you barely talk to directly. I said, remove this in this middle person. We don't need that middle person. Patient needs to talk directly. When you message in, you better talk directly to the doctor, and it better be the same doctor every single time. Oh, I got a different doctor. They don't know my history. They didn't answer the questions. It's every day. And so I was like, forget it. I'm going to be the CEO this time instead of everybody else. And I'm going to run it the way that I think needs to be run. And this is the right way. Direct contact with a doctor, direct contact with your same dietitian, support group, and going way beyond just GLP-1. So that's the gist. I call it Vineyard. The reason I came up with the name is like, I don't want to call it Dr. Spencer's Cardiometabolic Clinic Online. I want to call it something that's, seems a little bit, I don't want to call it bougie, but like, a vineyard. I don't know. You go to a vineyard and it's like, wine tasting. Ironically, the medicines help you drink less wine, but like, that was kind of the thought, and kind of a place where you'd feel like you'd want to hang out. So we're growing. We have another doctor, and that's the model. You get one doctor, you talk directly to them, message them, follow-up appointments, more than GLP-1. You get your own dietitian too. So that's the gist.
So it's you and another doctor, or are there many more?
Yep. And so we just started a couple months ago, and it's growing quickly, and then the doctors will have instead of these other places that have like a couple thousand patients per doctor or nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
We're only doctors right now, and it's going to be about at the most 600 or so patients per doctor, so that you have, you're getting the same doctor, you have their attention, they get to know you well, and then they have their own patient panel. That's the concept.
Yeah.
These other programs out there, they're fly by night doctors or nurse practitioners that are just doing it on the side, and they're basically click and refill, and they don't even know you. And I know people listening to this, I know they've had this experience because it's been told to me so much. I'm like, I'm making it. I'm going to create it. This is what I'm doing.
It sounds great. It sounds like a great platform because people have so many questions, right?
Yeah.
And so they go to YouTube, they come looking for answers to all these GLP-1 questions when, a lot of times I'll say, this is a question for your doctor. Like, you need to ask your doctor. And they're like, oh, my doctor really doesn't know, or they just, prescribed it and said, good luck.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
So I think that sounds like a great overall experience. So
thank you.
Hope it does well.
Yes, thank you.
You guys can go to joinvineyard.com and you can find Dr. Nadolsky on YouTube and Instagram, and he's also on Threads. He's kind of everywhere.
I'm all over the place.
So yeah, you guys go give him a follow there. Thank you, Dr. Spencer, for coming on today. I've really enjoyed talking with you.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Again, I'm Lorraine Durham, and please hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. You can go visit our website at DOWNSIZED.org, where we've got links to all kinds of things you might want to know about. And that's it. So we'll see you next time on The Downsized.